Chapter 71 Turn over the brand. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Since the diary system opened up the trading function, many beauties were studying it carefully. As they became familiar with it, some items for sale began to appear on the originally empty trading platform, but there are no extremely rare things like martial soul fragments, which are extremely precious to soul masters, even though they are fragments, and you need to collect 10 of them to get a second martial spirit. No one is stupid enough to sell them. Among the three women, Su Ruoxi has one, Duguyan only has one, and Yi Lingling has two. After seeing that they could trade, the three women wanted to give the martial soul fragment to Wu Xing. Wu Xing was very touched when several women handed over the spirit fragments to him without hesitation. After all, this thing is too precious to a spirit master. Compared with a perfect 100,000-year spirit ring, compared with an immortal for grass, it is 100 times 1,000 times better. I don't have any use for these martial soul fragments. You guys should discuss how to get them together. When the time comes, let one of you awaken the second martial soul first, and then help the next person collect them. Only in this way can the maximum effect be achieved. It would take a long time for one person to collect 10 martial spirit fragments. Based on their number, it might take a year at the fastest, or 10 or decades at the slowest time. This thing is purely based on appearance, but it's different if 3 people get one together first. The probability is much higher, and you don't have to worry about waiting for the last one. For this reason, Wu Xing gave advice and returned the martial soul fragments. He himself has a full martial soul and does not need these. Su Ruoxi did not take it, but said, "Husband, we are your women. If we want, we will get it for you first." Although Duguyan and Yi Lingling didn't speak, they nodded and agreed with Su Ruoxi's words. "I don't need you men." Wu Xing smiled and shook his head, and then explained, "To tell you the truth, the martial soul I possess is actually called the Origin Heart. Its ability is to generate a full martial soul, which means that all of you I can use the spirits of people, including all spirit masters. Since they all have no reservations about themselves, there is no need for Wu Xing to hide it from the 3 women. Can generate all martial arts souls." After hearing this, the 3 women were dumbfounded, completely frightened by Wu Xing. A martial soul that can use all soul masters. If they had not heard it with their own ears or even in their dreams, they would not have imagined that such a martial soul existed. No wonder Wu Xinghui said in his diary that his martial spirit was heaven-defying, but now he finally understood what a heaven-defying martial spirit was. After a while, Duguyan suddenly thought of something and said with some confusion, "Didn't you say before that you still have a martial spirit?" "Yes, billions of martial arts spirits are not one martial spirit." Looking at Duguyan's silly look, Wu Xing said with a smile, "Billions, hundreds of millions." Duguyan almost bit off his tongue. However, it is true that there are hundreds of millions of martial souls that can generate all soul masters. Last time, this guy Qingqing deliberately used the word gene to make them misunderstand. Don't you also have fragments of 100,000-year-old perfect soul ring? You can put them together and give them to whoever can absorb the soul ring first. Wu Xing spoke slowly again. He wanted his women to be indistinguishable from each other. Yeah. The 3 girls nodded when they heard this. Except for Duguyan, who didn't understand what Wu Xing meant, Su Ruoxi and Yi Lingling both understood. Of course, although Duguyan didn't understand, he was the most straightforward and would not care about it, because she can't hide her thoughts. Whatever she likes or dislikes will be shown directly on her face. Seeing that the girls gathered together to enhance the relationship between sisters after listening to his suggestions, Wu Xing did not intend to get involved, but walked aside. Take out 3 beautiful jade tablets from the diary warehouse. Each jade tablet is half the size of a palm. These are rewarded by the system. There are 3,000 in total. As for the function, apart from looking good, it actually has no use. Firstly, it cannot increase the wearer's cultivation speed, and secondly, it cannot increase people's bonds. But for such a jade plaque, Wu Xing concentrated on mobilizing his soul power and started carving it seriously. While carving, he looked up from time to time at the 3 women who were discussing. Along with the carving, the outline of a woman soon appeared on the first jade plaque. When it was completed, it turned out to be Su Ruoxi. Su Ruoxi in the jade plaque is lifelike, as if it were printed on it. After looking at it, Wu Xing was very satisfied with his masterpiece. Suddenly something occurred to him and he engraved her name under the carved portrait. After doing all this, he followed the same pattern again, but this time it was Yilingling's portrait that was carved. It was not until the third jade plaque was carved that the three women noticed their man's behavior and couldn't help but come over curiously. "Wow, it's so beautiful. This is your portrait, Sister Linling." Su Ruoxi picked up one of the jade plaques placed next to her, turned it over and looked at it, and she was pleasantly surprised. Yilingling heard this and looked around, her beautiful eyes flashing a few times. The portrait carved on it was exactly the same, not to mention similar to her. Unexpectedly, he had such skills. Yilingling stared at Wu Xing, who was still carving seriously, with obsession in his eyes. "Wu Xing, is this a gift for us?" Duguyan asked with joy as he saw that Wu Xing was about to finish carving his jade plaque. This jade plaque is already beautiful, but now it is carved with her likeness, making people unable to put it down. Hearing Duguyan's question, Su Ruoxi and Yilingling looked forward to it, but Wu Xing's next answer shocked them. "Of course not." Wu Xing raised a smirk on his lips. "Are you kidding? This is what he used to flip the cards to satisfy his own bad taste." As for this idea, he had long wanted to do it in his previous life, but apart from his looks, strength and money, he didn't allow it. "Now that I have traveled to this world, I have 3 more girlfriends, which can fulfill the wishes of my fellow readers." "No." The 3 women were stunned for a while, confused. "Husband, if you didn't give it to me and Sister Yan Yan and Sister Lingling, what are you using it for?" Su Ruoxi, as Wu Xing's first woman, has already been frank with each other and has a tacit understanding. You can understand its meaning with just a look. But I am also confused at the moment. After carving her name on Duguyan's jade plaque, it was finally done. Wu Xing then raised his head and smiled slowly. "Of course my husband used it to turn over the plaque. Flip the cards." The women were even more confused, seeing that the 3 women couldn't understand. A sly smile appeared on Wu Xing's face. "Well, you are all my women now. Whoever sleeps with her husband in the future will be decided by turning over the cards. This is fair and just." The 3 women who heard this were stunned for a moment, but the next second they all turned red, like ripe red apples. They never imagined that such a beautiful jade plaque with their portraits engraved on it would be used by their own men. "Bah, who wants to sleep with you?" Duguyan, who came back to his senses, sneered at Wu Xing. This bad guy really didn't have any good intentions and was actually doing it for his own selfish desires. Fortunately, she had shown great expectations just now. "Ha!" Wu Xing laughed and said, "If you are willing to come together, I will treat it as a gift for you." "Wow!" Su Ruoxi and Yilingling, who were holding the jade plaque tightly, were so frightened when they heard Wu Xing's answer that they quickly put it on the table. 3 girls together. Not to mention whether they can let it go or not, just thinking about it would make people die of embarrassment, so how could they agree to it? Chapter 72 The Temptation of Duguyan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's go eat and ignore this big bad guy. Duguyan cursed at Wu Xing again, picked up Su Ruoxi and Yilingling and walked out. When Wu Xing saw it, he didn't care. He smiled, put the jade plaque on the table into the diary warehouse, and then followed him. Because it happened to be meal time, a group of people walked on the road to the cafeteria, attracting the attention and whispers of countless students. As the most popular goddesses in the academy, the 3 girls have the highest rate of turning heads no matter where they go. And these 3 most popular goddesses are now chatting and laughing with Wu Xing, and they can't wait to take his place. Of course, Wu Xing is also a popular figure in the academy, and many female students secretly like him and look at him frequently. It's just that these female students are not as good-looking as the 3 girls, and they can't even be considered as supporting roles. Their standard passerby characters will naturally not attract too much attention from him. Wu Xing's performance made the 3 women extremely happy. Although their men were a little more flirtatious, not all girls could fall in love with him. After lunch, everyone did not go back to the dormitory. Instead, They wandered around the college, which was quite the experience of the university in their previous life. It's a pity that campus life in this world is not as rich as in the previous life, and there are no such things as club entertainment projects. The only thing is that there are several huge arenas set up in the playground for everyone to communicate and learn from each other. This makes sense, after all. In this world, the strong are respected, and all soul masters focus on cultivation. There is no free time to do these things. If you have that time, it is better to improve your soul power. The time came to the evening before we knew it. Since we need to gather for training tomorrow, everyone will not play too late. Wu Xing decisively took out the jade plaque carved today, placed it on the table, and looked at the three girls with a smile. When the three girls saw Wu Xing taking out the jade token, their faces turned red and they were nervous when they thought about what they had said today. Su Ruoxi was a little better. She had been sleeping with her own man before, so even if she fell in love with her, she wouldn't be too worried, but Duguyan and Yilingling were different. They were shy but also a little expectant. After randomly shuffling the 3 jade tablets, Wu Xing picked up one of them, but did not open it in a hurry. Seeing Wu Xing pick up the jade card, Duguyan and Yilingling raised their voices nervously, hoping that the other party would turn over to them, but they were a little afraid that they would turn over to them. In short, it is very contradictory. Seeing that the atmosphere was tense, Wu Xing turned over the jade medal under the watchful eyes of the 3 women. Clap. With a soft sound, the jade plaque was turned over, revealing a portrait of Duguyan on it. Ha! Yilingling's nervous heart finally relaxed, and she didn't even realize that her palms were sweating. Su Ruoxi also let out a breath, finally able to sleep peacefully tonight. It's not that she doesn't like spending time with her man, she just wants to be together every day and hold her to sleep every night. It's just that her man is too strong, and she really can't resist it. But seeing that it was him who Wu Xing turned over, Duguyan's whole face was dripping with blood. He panicked and said, "Wu Xing, this doesn't count. I didn't mess up just now. Start over. Why don't you count? I am fair and impartial. I can do it in front of you." Wu Xing would not listen to Duguyan's explanation. Although he could turn over anyone's sign if he wanted to, he didn't bother to do so. For the sake of fairness, it was fair, and he would never use soul power to cheat. After all, you have to be fair to your woman. You bully me, I won't play with you. Seeing that Wu Xing had made up his mind, Duguyan blushed and finished speaking, pretending to run out of the room. Naturally, Wu Xing would not let Duguyan escape. As the head of a family, if he couldn't manage this well, how could he embrace him in the future? With quick hands and eyes, he grabbed Duguyan's white little hand, and with a little force, he held her in his arms. Seeing Duguyan struggling to get away, he quickly looked at Su Ruoxi and Yilingling, begging the 2 women for help. "He, Sister Yan Yan, since my husband turned over your sign, you will be the one to accompany me tonight," Su Ruoxi said with a smile. Seeing that Su Ruoxi had no hope, Duguyan looked at Yilingling again. "Sister Yan Yan, Sister Ruoxi is right, I'm going back to the dormitory first," Yilingling said with a blush, and hurriedly fled from here. As Yilingling fled, Su Ruoxi said understandingly, "See you tomorrow," and then left the room. In the blink of an eye, she and Wu Xing were the only ones left in the room. Duguyan looked at the 2 women leaving, feeling anxious. He stood up and wanted to follow, but was held tightly by Wu Xing and could not escape. "Hey, Yanzi, don't think about leaving." Wu Xing looked at Duguyan who was still struggling in his arms and said with a smile. When Duguyan heard this, he stopped struggling, but the tension in his heart could not be calmed down, and he could hear the pounding heartbeat. Seeing Duguyan, who had always been arrogant, become shy and timid, this contrast was undoubtedly fatal to the attraction of men, and it suddenly ignited Wu Xing's anger. However, he still resisted the impulse in his heart, took a deep breath, and said, "You just want to leave?" I'm not." Duguyan shook his head quickly. Although he was nervous, he still raised his head, for fear of being misunderstood by Wu Xing. "If you don't want to, there's no need to force it," Wu Xing continued. He knew that Duguyan usually seemed to have a straightforward style, but he was even worse than Yilingling when it came to things like this. If she's not ready yet, Wu Xing won't force it. I'm not unwilling, and I'm not forcing myself. Duguyan answered anxiously, with a glint of light emerging from the edges of his eyes. Compared to her inner shyness and nervousness, she was more afraid that Wu Xing would think she didn't like him. Really? Wu Xing had a smile in his eyes. Really? Duguyan was so anxious that she almost cried. Seeing that Duguyan was almost crying because of his teasing, Wu Xing stopped and said, "Okay, I won't tease you anymore, I'm only joking with you." Ah. Duguyan opened his mouth, and finally noticed Wu Xing's evil smile. He was so embarrassed that he buried his head in the other person's arms and slapped him fiercely. You bullied me again. Then do you like it?" Wu Xing smiled and grabbed the other person's fair little hand. "I like it." Duguyan replied carefully. "Then look up." Wu Xing smiled and said, although Duguyan was shy, he still raised his head slightly, just in time to see Wu Xing's burning eyes with aggression, but before she could react, Wu Xing bent down and kissed her rosy mouth. In an instant, Duguyan let out a soft moan and his body became tense. I don't know how long it took, but Wu Xing finally let go of his mouth when he noticed that the other person's breathing was becoming more and more unnatural. At this time, Duguyan was breathing rapidly, his face was flushed, and even his crystal-white earlobes were flushed with a thrilling red. If it wasn't for the bad timing, Wu Xing couldn't help but want to eat this chick. "Okay, it's getting late. Let's go take a shower and go to bed. We have to gather tomorrow." "Well, okay." Duguyan was in a trance, but quickly recovered, quickly stood up, stepped on her long beautiful legs, stepped on her scale-high heels, and ran towards the bathroom with a clicking sound. Seeing Duguyan looking like this, Wu Xing's lips curled up into a smile again. Chapter 73 Su Ruoxi's Hard Training, 3 Updates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Wu Xing and Duguyan walked out of the room, and Su Ruoxi and Yi Lingling were already waiting outside. When she saw the two girls, Duguyan blushed unconsciously. Thinking of the embarrassing incident last night, her beautiful snow-white legs under her blue skirt subconsciously tightened. Even though nothing happened last night, Wu Xing slept with her in his arms all night, and naturally, he kept stroking her. How could Duguyan, who had never experienced anything between men and women, not react? He soon became breathless and confused. After Wu Xing discovered that this girl was so sensitive, he deliberately teased her for a long time before letting her go. As a result, Duguyan is now a little afraid to face the two women, for fear of being questioned by them. Fortunately, Su Ruoxi and Yi Lingling also understood and neither of them mentioned what happened last night, but Su Ruoxi was still a little strange. Judging from Sister Yanyan's condition, she didn't look like she had been eaten. You must know that she was very tired at the beginning and fell asleep until she woke up in the afternoon. On the other hand, Sister Yanyan could not see any fatigue except for the shyness on her face. After breakfast, we came to the meeting place and everyone was already there. When they saw Wu Xing coming with the three girls and greeting them warmly, they all showed envious expressions. He has the three goddesses of the academy all to himself, and yet he can still get along with them so harmoniously. He is simply a role model for us. Although their father and elders had many wives and concubines in their family, they did not get along well with each other. There were constant fights and secret fights. The situation of being as close as sisters did not exist at all. Not long after a few people arrived, Instructor Yu Feng also came over. He nodded to everyone, said some opening remarks, and then led everyone into the mimicry training room. Considering that Duguyan and Yi Lingling have newly joined the second team, it is also to allow the two women to quickly integrate into the team. Yu Feng lowered the difficulty of today's task, but what he didn't expect was that although the two women were new members, their tacit understanding was not bad at all, and it was easier than before to deal with the 10,000-year soul beast. As expected of a member of the first team, his fighting ability is high. Looking at the 10,000-year soul beast that dissipated in less than a few minutes, Yu Feng sighed in his heart. No one who comes out can be compared to the members of the second team. Of course, Wu Xing is an exception. When Su Ruoxi saw Sister Yanyan and Sister Lingling performing such amazing performances, she was surprised and a little anxious at the same time. She wasn't jealous, but she was ashamed of her own strength, and she didn't want to be held back. Since there is no problem with your cooperation, let's rest for a month and then go to Qiando City for the 3-month soul fighting competition in 1 month. Yu Feng glanced at everyone and said slowly, during this month of rest, you should not relax and neglect. Yes, Teacher Yu Feng. Everyone responded quickly. Well, let's disband. Yu Feng nodded with satisfaction, seeing the performance of these players, especially Wu Xing and the newly joined Duguyan and Yi Lingling. He was confident that he could win the second place in this elite competition of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy. After the team was disbanded, Su Ruoxi thought about it for a while and said to Wu Xing, "Husband, you go back with Sister Yan Yan and Sister Lingling first." "What's wrong?" Wu Xing stopped and looked at Su Ruoxi. "I want to enter the auxiliary mimicry training place for training." Su Ruoxi said the reason. After seeing the performance of Duguyan and Yi Lingling, she made this plan. She must upgrade her soul power to level 40 as soon as possible. Wu Xing did not stop him, but asked with concern, "How long do you plan to go into train?" "I don't know either." Su Ruoxi shook her head, and then said, "I want to attack the soul sect before coming out." "Okay." Wu Xing agreed without much thought. He could also understand what Su Ruoxi was thinking. She suddenly wanted to practice hard training, which must have been influenced by Duguyan and Yi Lingling. After hearing this, Duguyan and Yi Lingling immediately thought of something and took out a few training cards from the diary warehouse. "Sister Ruoxi, sister, these are the soul power training cards, you can use them first." "No. No need." Su Ruoxi rejected the two women's kindness. She can't use it selfishly, this is their diary reward, not to mention that this thing cannot be measured by money at all. "Take it, Yanzi and Lingling also want you to reach the soul sect as soon as possible." Before Duguyan and Yi Lingling could speak, Wu Xing had already spoken out for the two women. This soul power training card should be left alone. Instead of waiting to use it until he reaches the realm, it is better to give it to Su Ruoxi first. Seeing her man speaking, Su Ruoxi had no choice but to take it and thanked her. "Thank you, Sister Yan Yan, Sister Lingling. Why are you being polite to us? We are all good sisters." Duguyan and Yi Lingling said with a smile, but seeing that the three women were indistinguishable from each other, Wu Xing was still very happy and said, "When you attack the soul sect, my husband will give you another surprise." "Okay." Su Ruoxi responded, her face turned a little red for some reason. She mistakenly thought that the surprise her man said was about something, but the next second she knew that she had thought wrong. "After you reach soul sect, don't absorb the 10,000-year soul ring." "Ah." Su Ruoxi raised her head in confusion. "My husband has 200,000-year soul rings. I'll give you one as a gift." Wu Xing smiled, since she is his own woman, of course I must use the best, and the 10,000 years soul ring has no regard for her. From now on, no matter it is Duguyan or Yi Lingling, they will be the same. As for whether the 100,000-year-old perfect soul ring would not be enough, he was not too worried. After all, the three women had a chance to get fragments of a 100,000-year-old perfect soul ring, and he had a chance to get the whole one, so it was not a problem at all. I. Su Ruoxi was so moved that she couldn't speak when she heard this. A stream of tears fell from her eyes. She was so happy. First it was fairy grass, then it was a diary invitation card, and now it promised 100,000 years of perfect soul ring. She didn't know how much blessing she had cultivated in her previous life, so that she could meet a husband who loved her so much in this life. Duguyan and Yi Lingling, who were on the side, saw this scene and felt the same in their hearts. Their men were so nice. They were not wrong about the man. Wu Xing stretched out his hand to wipe away the tears from the corners of Su Ruoxi's eyes, and said gently, "Okay, go practice and try to come out as soon as possible." "Yes." Su Ruoxi nodded heavily, then said something to Duguyan and Yi Lingling, and then entered the separate auxiliary mimicry training room. Seeing Su Ruoxi enter the mimicry training room, Wu Xing looked away and looked at the two women beside him. "Let's go, Yanzi, Lingling, we are going back." "Okay." The two women looked away and responded softly, and Duguyan boldly took Wu Xing's arm. Seeing Duguyan suddenly become so bold, Wu Xing was a little surprised, and then a smirk appeared. "This is not like our Yanzi." I I'm just moved by your kindness to Sister Ruoxi. Duguyan said arrogantly, looking at the duplicitous Duguyan. Wu Xing smiled and said jokingly, then do you want to thank me properly tonight? Duguyan's face turned red, she pursed her lips and hummed, you can tell me after you turn over my sign. Chapter 74, Taking Stock of Great Female Soul Masters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is what you said, don't regret it then. Wu Xing could not wait to take out the jade card on the spot and start today's card flipping session. After all, the instructor said that everyone should take a month's rest, so that they can enjoy this girl with confidence and boldness, and there is no need to just indulge in handjobs like last night. Facing Wu Xing's hot eyes, Duguyan suddenly panicked, but still said firmly, I will not go back on my words. Even if Sister Ruoxi was missing, there was still a half chance. She didn't believe it was such a coincidence. Looking at the desperate Duguyan, Wu Xing smiled and did not provoke her any more. Instead, he looked at Yi Lingling aside, then took the other person's little hand and clasped their fingers together. As a veteran driver, of course he would not favor one thing over another. Feeling the tightly clasped fingers, Yi Lingling's face turned red, and she felt very sweet inside. Although she has a calm temperament and doesn't like to fight, it doesn't mean that she doesn't like to be loved by her beloved. The three of them returned to the dormitory, and Wu Xing opened the diary. Panel as usual, just thinking about what happened that day, but it made him a little embarrassed, and he had no intention of writing. Husband, what's wrong? Sensing Wu Xing's frown, the attentive Yi Lingling couldn't help but ask. In order to show the intimacy, she has begun to learn new names, but she still can't let go when calling her husband. My husband is thinking about what to write. Wu Xing smiled bitterly and wrote one diary a day. To be honest, if there were not many diary holders, he could write in a diary format, but with so many beautiful women watching, he would just record his day's events. It seems too monotonous. If something happens around you, that's fine. If nothing happens, you'll feel bored. Yi Lingling fell silent after hearing this. She understood what Wu Xing meant. After all, he wanted to write it to many beauties in the comic diary, so he couldn't just perfunctory it. How about, hubby, try to write some gossip that will interest everyone. After thinking for a moment, Yi Lingling gave a suggestion. For example. Wu Xing's eyes lit up. For example, the strength of some soul masters in our world. Yi Lingling answered subconsciously, she is actually very curious about these, and wants to know more about her world's deeds. In Douluo Continent, the strong are respected, and no one will like them. Anyway, her man has traveled through time and knows everything in the original work. After hearing Yi Lingling's answer, Wu Xing's eyes flashed, and he immediately pulled Yi Lingling over and kissed her hard on the mouth. Haha, Lingling, you are really my husband's lucky star. Yi Lingling's face was made shy by Wu Xing's move, and her pink neck turned red. Of course, she was very happy to be able to help her man. Watching the two people's intimate behavior from the sidelines, Duguyan pursed her lips. Why didn't she expect that? Noticing Duguyan's cute appearance, Wu Xing chuckled, and kissed her raised little mouth as fast as lightning, and then smiled and said, Haha, hubby, write a diary first, and then I will love you both well tonight. These words made the two women shy and full of spring in their eyes. Just do it. After laughing, Wu Xing immediately started writing on the diary panel, Dear beauties, we meet again. Originally, I was worried about what to write today, but my family, Ling Ling, gave me a suggestion, which made me enlightened. She asked me to write about gossips and anecdotes about various worlds, which will interest you, and I happen to have this intention as well. Then using this topic, today we will talk about the ranking of the 10 most powerful female soul masters in the ending of the original Douluo 1 world. Of course, what I say only represents my personal opinion, please do not take it too seriously. And now that you have a copy of the diary, you can't tell what will happen in the future. The reason why Wu Xing planned to talk about the top 10 most powerful female soul masters instead of all soul masters was mainly because the diary holders were all women, and the audience he was targeting was them. Why should he say that those male soul masters were not? Yi Lingling looked at the copy of the diary where Wu Xing mentioned her intimately. Her heart was already filled with honey, and her beautiful eyes were filled with stars. As for the beauties in Douluo world, their interest immediately rose when they saw that the owner of the diary was going to talk about the female soul master with the highest combat power among them. They all straightened their bodies and their eyes were bright. Although it is talking about the direction of the original work and may have nothing to do with the future where they are now, it can still be appreciated. The beauties from other worlds also became interested when they saw this. After all, they all like to hear gossip, not to mention that they will talk about the world they live in at any time. Okay, without further ado, let's first take stock of the 10th most powerful female soul master. The female soul master ranked 10th is from the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon family. She is also mentioned to you before. You must have guessed that she is the former dean of Blue Tyrant Academy, Lu Erlong. It's me. Lu Erlong stared blankly at the copy of the diary in his hand. She never expected that in the entire Douluo Continent, she would actually be on the list of the strongest female soul masters in the mind of the diary owner, and she was the first one on the list. This surprised her, and at the same time, she became very interested in Wu Xing again. After all, what woman doesn't want to be praised, and in front of countless diary holders, the sense of accomplishment is far beyond anything that can be compared to anything in the past. Teacher Erlong is on the list. Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, and Zhu Zhuqing also exclaimed when they saw the first female soul master Wu Xing counted, but after thinking about it, the terrifying strength displayed by Teacher Erlong no longer seems strange. Her martial spirit is a red fire dragon that is a benign mutation of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex. It has dual attributes of lightning and fire. Its attack power and explosive power are very powerful. It can be said to be the best among soul masters of the same level. He hates evil, but he also has a very fiery temper. He is a real female Tyrannosaurus and deserves the title. In the original anime, her final soul power level was around level 90, so I ranked her 10th. This bastard. When Lu Erlong saw this, he immediately clenched his fist with his right hand and smashed the table in front of him to pieces. Take stock of her, just take stock of her. It's okay for you to expose my martial arts spirit. It's okay to say that I hate evil as much as hatred. But what are you talking about? What do you mean by saying that I have a hot temper and that I am a real female Tyrannosaurus? What does this have to do with strength? You must break the news to me. At this time, Lu Erlong could not wait to rush out of the room, go to Tiando Royal Academy to catch Wu Xing, and give him a good beating to vent his anger. Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, and Zhu Zhuqing all chuckled when they saw Wu Xing exposing Teacher Erlong's character. Teacher Erlong was afraid that he would go berserk when he saw this. The same goes for Wu Xing, who dares to say anything without fear of being noticed by Teacher Erlong. All three girls can imagine the scene of being hammered by Teacher Erlong when the other party participates in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition. Chapter 75 Xiao Wu's mother was moved. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The female soul master ranked 9th is a bit special. She is an auxiliary soul master. She is the little princess of the Qibao glazed sect, Ning Rongrong. The martial soul was originally the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, but now I think it took some fairy grass and evolved into the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. Although all her soul skills have no offensive power, as a title Douluo, relying on her strong soul power, it is still no problem to defeat the soul Douluo with bare hands, and the defensive power of her 8th and 9th soul skills is even considered by a peak Douluo. It's not easy to break open either. As for her character, it's hard to describe her in one word, but I have to say that she is very courageous and dares to do whatever comes to her mind. She also likes to act coquettishly and get benefits from others. In short, she is a real little witch. In the anime finale, her soul power reached an astonishing level 94, so I ranked her 9th. This bad guy. Ning Rongrong from Shrek Academy said with a slightly red face. At first, she never thought that she would be on Wu Xing's list of the strongest female soul masters. After all, she was only an auxiliary soul master. Later, when I saw the other party talking about her boldness, I immediately thought of what happened at the auction house last time. Obviously, this bad guy mentioned it to her on purpose, little witch. She quite liked the title given by Wu Xing. Rongrong, you are so amazing. In the original anime, you actually reached level 94. Xiao Wu and Zhu Xuqing were not focused on each other's personality, but were shocked that she finally reached the title Douluo. It's just so. Ning Rongrong said with a happy smile, Xiao Wu, Zhu Qing, you should also be on that bad list. When Xiao Wu and Zhu Xuqing heard this, their hearts moved slightly and they began to look forward to it. The female soul master ranked 8th is an old acquaintance. She was the one who used the three-legged cat kung fu some time ago to capture the double-standard king Xiao Jia-san, but was beaten to the point of belching by Tang Hao behind the scenes. Lingyuan Douluo. Her martial spirit is the fire spirit kite, which has a single fire attribute. It has a wide attack range. She is good at group attacks and can exert great power. He was eager for quick success and was easily dazzled by victory, which led to him being jointly killed by 200,000-year-old soul beasts in the Star Do Forest, resulting in his death. I ranked her 8th because she appeared earlier and was a rare female titled Douluo in the early stage. Damn little man, in the sky rushing to the Tiando Empire, Lingyuan stood on top of her martial soul, holding a copy of the diary in her hand, her teeth itching with hatred. This guy is here again. He is so eager for quick success and so easy to get carried away by victory. Is she such a woman? How could a female soul master who could become a titled Douluo so early be so brainless? She was just killed by the plot. Yes, that's it. Lingyuan thought hard, something must have affected her mind. The 7th one is the exact opposite of the 8th one. She is a newcomer. I have never mentioned it before, and I don't know if she has a copy of her diary. Her name is Sea Witch. She is one of the 7 holy pillar Douluo of Poseidon Island, the guardian of the Sea Lady Pillar, and the lord of the Sea Lady City. She also belongs to the Mermaid clan and is a half-human, half-sea spirit beast. The martial soul is the Sea Demon Flute, a relatively rare spiritual attack soul master. As a human, that's not right, and as an animal, well, that doesn't seem right either. Anyway, he has a lively personality and has the innate ability to read minds. Although she is about 90 years old, among her clan, she is equivalent to a 19-year-old human being. This diary owner is so interesting. I wonder if you will come to Poseidon Island as a guest. Far away on Poseidon Island, a girl was holding a copy of the diary. She had a huge fish tail with a wonderful arc that extended to her waist. She had a pair of big sky blue eyes that were extremely agile, but looking in the direction of the sky looked very cute. The 6th place is another familiar person. She is another one of Shrek's 3 beauties, Zhu Xuqing. The martial spirit is a ghost spirit cat. Although it is not outstanding among the beast martial spirits, it is extremely talented, has a firm mind, and practices very hard. Because of his family background, he is cold and taciturn, making it difficult for others to get close to him. Of course, this is a relative term. Being cold on the outside is just a protective color she adds to herself. In fact, being cold on the outside and hot on the inside is her true character. I put her in 6th place because her soul power level reached level 93 in the finale, and her speed is unmatched by anyone below the god level. Look, Zhu Qing, you are also on the list. Ning Rongrong said happily. Yes. Zhu Xuqing nodded, his expression still as cold as ever, as if he didn't care about anything, but he had already made up his mind. Wu Xing knows her so well and also knows about his family's affairs. Next time they meet, he must ask her about how to break the family's fate. The 5th one is another one of Shrek's 3 beauties. I guess she needs no introduction, she is Xiao Wu. The martial soul is a soft bone rabbit, but her true body is her own martial soul, which was transformed from a 100,000-year-old soul beast. After a row was hunted by Donger Beauty, she came to the human world and met Tang San, the double-standard king. She was regarded as his forbidden love. No one was allowed to approach, not even brothers. As long as he had some clues, he would definitely will fall out. And this guy's perverted desire for control goes far beyond that. As the saying goes, Xiao Wu was injured and Tang San went berserk. Xiao Wu worshipped the sky and had boundless magic power. In short, she was still alive to influence the performance of this child of destiny. Ahem, this seems to be a bit far-fetched. I was just taking stock of Xiao Wu's strength, so why am I talking about that little Yakuza again? Dear beauties, I'm really sorry, I couldn't hold it back for a while. Xiao Wu's personality was influenced by the beauty Aro. She was lively, cheerful, and loved to fight against injustices. She was also kind to every friend around her, and attached great importance to the relationship with her friends, so she was attracted by Tang San. Well, it seems to have gone astray again. In short, Xiao Wu is very kind and values feelings. After learning that I had the resurrection technique, she immediately came to ask me to revive you, Arome. You don't have to worry, Miss Aro, Xiao Wu is doing well. When the cooldown time of my resurrection spell is reduced, I will resurrect you and reunite you mother and daughter. I placed her in 5th place. At the end of Battle 1, not to mention her soul power had reached level 96, she had rich combat experience, was flexible and versatile, and could challenge her beyond the level. Pure Land World, Aro was very happy when she saw her daughter on the list of diary owners, and she was also happy for her daughter's future achievements, but later when he saw his daughter being treated as a forbidden concubine by Tang San, his heart was in his throat again. After Wu Xing's review, she didn't like this so-called son of destiny and the protagonist of the world at all, and even disliked him very much. How could she watch her daughter jump into this pit of fire? She only hoped that her daughter could see this clearly through the diary soon. She doesn't want her daughter to become a tool for the protagonist to move forward. It's not inappropriate for such a heroine. Later, when she saw Wu Xing agreeing to resurrect him and reunite their mother and daughter, Aro was very moved. Soul beasts are different from humans. They know how to repay kindness and remember it in their hearts throughout their lives. They will repay their benefactor well after they are resurrected. Chapter 76. This is not scientific. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Today's inventory will end here, leaving some suspense. We will continue talking about the remaining ones tomorrow. All beauties, see you tomorrow. Let's see you there. After Wu Xing took stock here, he paused and planned to end today's diary. It's just that what he did made many diary holders, especially the many beauties in Douluo Continent, almost make him angry to death. They just got excited and took off their skirts. Is this all you want to do? The dog who broke the chapter must die a good death. This hateful anti-fan. In Wuhuan City, the Pope's palace, Bibi Dong saw Wu Xing suddenly say, "We will take stock here today." She was very angry, and the peaks on her chest became a little stronger. This was the second time she hated someone so much. The first time was Qian Xuanji, and the second time was the diary owner. It's nothing more than negative fans, she can tolerate it. After all, as the Pope, she doesn't need to care about other people's opinions, but this time, it has aroused her sexual desire. No, interest. Why are you playing with suspense, that feeling of neither going up nor down, not to mention how uncomfortable it is. If his subordinates dared to do this when reporting, they would have died countless times. What's more, according to the opponent's soul power level, she is definitely on the list, and must be the first. How could she not be annoyed now? That she was pinched by the other party before her reputation was spread out and admired by all the women in the world. Asshole, when you get to Wuhuan City, I'll see if this Pope doesn't put a kick in your mouth and make you play with it. That the more Bibi Dong thought about it, the angrier she became, and the more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became. She kept saying that she loved the 3 beauties of Wuhuan Hall the most, but in the end she was all praising Shrek's 3 beauties. Tiando Palace, Qian Renxue, who always pretended to be calm, was a little angry at this time. She also wanted to hear whether she could enter the list, and what Wu Xing would think of her if she entered, but she never thought that he would play like this. The broken dog is the most shameful. For the first time, she felt that broken people were so hateful. Shrek Academy, Xiao Wu, Ning Rongrong, and Zhu Zhuqing twitched their foreheads when they saw Wu Xing suddenly stopped updating. They are watching happily, their interest is still high, and then you say, "First come here, and then nothing else." Point one day, with the knife in hand, I can kill all the broken dogs in the world. Ning Rongrong immediately opened the friends column of the diary and sent out a sentence with an angry text expression, not to mention these beauties. Even Duguyan and Yilingling could hardly catch their breath when they saw this. Wu Xing, why don't you update it? Duguyan said angrily and directly. Yilingling said nothing, but gave Wu Xing a resentful look, as if to say, husband, what you did is a bit too much. Aha, isn't this a normal storyteller? Wu Xing looked at the appearance of the two women and quickly made a haha. Humph, I don't care, I want to listen. Duguyan started to act petty. Wu Xing was ashamed and coaxed and lied, be good, don't make trouble, it will be the same tomorrow. You will bully me. Duguyan pouted, his cheeks bulging, like a frustrated little daughter-in-law. Wu Xing couldn't laugh or cry. Why did he bully you again? Okay, my husband will draw the reward first. Wu Xing shook his head helplessly and said with a smile. Seeing this, Duguyan had no choice but to give up. She decided that if this guy was still like this tomorrow, she would bite him severely. After finally stabilizing the situation, Wu Xing communicated with the system. The system collects the reward. Ding! It is detected that the host has updated a diary, and a skill cooling card will be rewarded. Skill cooling card. After use, the skill cooling time can be reset once, disappears after use. After Wu Xing heard about the reward items, he immediately checked it out. When he saw the details of the skill cooling card, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. He didn't expect that the system would actually give him a reward that reduced the cooldown time of his skills. Was he planning to let him resurrect a Ru? Husband, what reward did you get? Yilingling, who noticed Wu Xing's surprise, felt curious in his heart. After hearing Yilingling's words, Duguyan also looked over with curiosity on his face. Take a look. Wu Xing took out the reward and placed it on the table. Duguyan and Yilingling were also very surprised when they saw this reward. This was equivalent to being able to use the resurrection spell for free. Husband, which diary sister are you going to resurrect? Yilingling asked. She already knew in her diary that some of these copy holders came from the Pure Land world. Wu Xing thought for a moment and replied, we'll look at it later. I haven't decided who to resurrect yet. Since there are rewards like cooling cards, I think there will be more in the system in the future, so I don't need to care too much, but he hasn't thought about who to resurrect yet. His top priority was not Xiao Wu's mother, but Yin. After all, she was Tang San's mother. Even though this guy was able to pass through the soul and seize the body, his bloodline was there and he couldn't change it even if he wanted to. As a thorough man who wanted to torture the little Yakuza, what would be more fulfilling than getting his mother here? It's just that he doesn't know Yin's current situation. If he still has feelings for Tang Hao after his resurrection, it will be a big loss. He had only mentioned it briefly in his diary before, without actually exposing Tang Hao's face. Wu Xing's answer surprised Yilingling and Duguyan. They thought their man would resurrect Xiao Wu's mother. Of course, since the man said this, he must have some considerations, so the two women didn't say much. Don't talk about this, let's turn over the cards. Wu Xing put aside the thoughts in his mind and took out 2 jade cards with a smile. When they saw Wu Xing taking out the jade token, both Duguyan and Yilingling blushed, extremely shy. After calming down the tension in his heart, Duguyan hurriedly said, Wu Xing, it's not night yet. It doesn't matter, you don't have to do it at night. Wu Xing chuckled. In an instant, the two women were blushing again and wanted to escape. Looking at the two shy girls, Wu Xing curled up his lips and said, for the sake of fairness, and also because someone's words don't count, you come to disrupt them. My husband won't watch. After saying that, Wu Xing turned around with a smile. Looking at the 2 jade plaques on the table, Duguyan and Yilingling were even more embarrassed, but they also understood that such a day would come, and they didn't mind dedicating themselves to their lovers. In the end, Yilingling took the initiative to reach out and spin the 2 jade plaques randomly until they stopped after a while. Wu Xing turned around when he heard the movement stopped and asked with a smile, are you ready? Okay. Yilingling replied carefully. When Wu Xing heard this, he turned around and looked at the shy and timid eyes of the two women. Without any hesitation, he picked up a jade plaque and turned it over. As the jade card was opened, it was the portrait of Duguyan. Seeing that it was Sister Yanyan's jade plaque, Yilingling's nervous heart was not relieved. but she was a little disappointed in her heart. Of course, she is not jealous of Duguyan, she is just a girl with ambivalence. This is unscientific. Duguyan was so embarrassed that she couldn't raise her head when she saw it was her jade token again. For 2 days in a row, it was just me. Chapter 77 Getting Started with Duguyan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sun sets in the west and night falls, the thin moonlight shines through the window into a dormitory of Tiendo Royal Academy. As Yi Lingling left, the atmosphere in the whole room became subtle, as if the air was filled with an ambiguous smell. Duguyan was sitting on the sofa, her small white hands tightly grasping the white lace edge of her short skirt, showing her inner nervousness. The monster-like snake eyes looked around, as if they were avoiding some natural enemy. Wu Xing leaned on the bedside and looked at Duguyan's cute appearance with a smile, which was completely opposite to his personality. He found it very interesting. This little girl slept with me yesterday. I didn't expect that she would still be so shy today. As if aware of Wu Xing's scrutinizing gaze, Duguyan's body straightened instantly, and his eyes that were originally looking around were retracted, and the beautiful snow-white legs under the short skirt were even more closely attached to each other, like beautiful art sculptures. Wu Xing looked at this scene with amusement. For a moment, the corners of his mouth slightly raised and he said, "Yanzi." Hearing Wu Xing's cry, Duguyan's heart trembled, his stiff neck slowly turned around, he swallowed hard and uttered a sentence. How? Do you still remember what someone promised this morning?" Wu Xingxiao looked at Duguyan and teased. "Remember?" Duguyan blushed and replied carefully, it was precisely because she remembered that she seemed nervous, and it was precisely because she understood what was going to happen tonight that she became even more shy than last night. "Then why don't you come over? Don't you want to regret it?" Wu Xing patted the bed, and the smile on his face became thicker. When Duguyan heard this, his body trembled again, but he still stood up from the sofa obediently, slowly came to the bed and sat down carefully. Of course she wouldn't regret it, it was just a girl's reserve that made her feel embarrassed. Seeing Duguyan walking on thin ice, Wu Xing took the other person's waist and pulled him over without saying a word. Duguyan's body suddenly fell down in front of Wu Xing. She was so frightened that she screamed and hurriedly covered her face, which turned red due to shyness. How could Wu Xing let go of admiring the lovely person in front of him? He reached out and took away her little hand that was covering his pretty face, but after taking it away, she laughed dumbly again, and saw that the girl had her eyes closed tightly, and her long eyelashes were still beating. Without saying anything or letting her open her eyes, Wu Xing just admired the other party's beautiful face. Although Duguyan is not as tall as Shrek's 3 beauties 5 years later, is not as charming as Hulaina, is not as noble as Qianrenxue, and is not as mature as Dong'er Beauty, but she has a girl-next-door look. Style, especially her cute little tsundere expression, always makes Wu Xing want to tease her. Duguyan, who was lying on the bed, noticed the silence in the room. He opened one eye slightly and saw Wu Xing's smiling and appreciative eyes. In an instant, she was so frightened that she quickly closed her eyes, like a frightened deer. "Yanzi, it's not okay to be so nervous. Your sister Ruoxi is not as timid as you," Wu Xing said with a smile. His words are the most arousing to Duguyan's competitive character. Sure enough, after hearing Wu Xing's words, Duguyan instinctively opened his eyes, looking straight at him even though he was still panicking. "This is in line with the wild geese in my family who are not afraid of anything." Wu Xing stroked Duguyan's short purple hair and said "Ying." Duguyan's face turned even redder. He finally mustered up the courage, but was about to be provoked by Wu Xing, and showed signs of shutting down. Wu Xing would not let her close her eyes again. He stretched out his hand and pinched Duguyan's fair and smooth chin. He gently raised his hand to lift her face. Then he lowered his head and kissed the red mouth. "Well." Feeling the cold touch of red lips, Duguyan let out a soft groan. Her petite chiong nose smelled Wu Xing's unique manly scent, and her eyes began to become blurred. The pink little hands, accompanied by the other party's gentle kiss, wrapped around Wu Xing's neck and responded unfamiliarly. After letting go for a long time, Wu Xing looked at Duguyan, who was panting, with a blush on his face, and eyes full of spring, with a smirk flashing at the corner of his mouth. He knew last night that Duguyan was very sensitive, but now he was completely confused after just one kiss. If his arms weren't still around his neck, his snake-like soft body would have completely collapsed in the next second. He now understands why Su Xian and Xiao Yan like to play with snakes. Although Duguyan is a human being, her martial spirit is the green scale snake emperor. Under the influence of the martial spirit, plus the monster is indistinguishable from a snake. The pupils are not much different from those of a transformed snake. Such a beautiful boneless body can easily arouse people's desires with a slight twist. Who can resist this? Anyway, Wu Xing couldn't resist. He lowered his head again and kissed the red lips that were still glowing with crystal light. Having been aroused, he was not limited to this time. He held her head with one hand, touched her beautiful white legs with the other, and raised them slightly. The confused Duguyan had been completely guided by Wu Xing. He felt the strength of the hot hand on his thigh, and his long white legs were slightly bent to cater to the opponent's movements. His big hand moved all the way down until it reached the opponent's feet. Wu Xing's thumb and index finger exerted a little force, and with a snap, he took off Duguyan's blue high-heeled shoes with snake scales and threw them aside. After finishing all this, Wu Xing quickly took off the high heel on his other foot, threw it under the bed, and then slowly moved it up his thigh. Wu Xing. Duguyan's eyes flashed with clarity in his confusion, preventing Wu Xing from making the next move to reach deep into his thighs. Wu Xing paused and said softly, "Call me husband." "Old husband." Duguyan responded shyly. "What's wrong?" Wu Xing made no move, staring blankly at Coroner under him. I'm a little scared." Duguyan replied softly. Hanchuan's beautiful eyes were a little frightened. Although she usually acted very arrogant, carefree, and straightforward, she still seemed extremely nervous when she was about to hand over her most precious possessions. Moreover, she heard that a woman's first time was often very painful, which made her even more timid. Seeing Duguyan cowering, Wu Xing gently blew a breath beside her fair earlobe and said softly, "Yanzi, don't be afraid, my husband will be very gentle." Duguyan looked at Wu Xing's gentle eyes. Her fearful heart became much calmer. She responded softly, and stopped blocking with her hands. Seeing that Duguyan had relaxed and his body was no longer stiff, Wu Xing gently began to guide him on tonight's journey. Chapter 78 Boudoir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, the sun rises from the sky, and the sunlight shines into the room through the windows. Wu Xing, who was sleeping deeply, slowly opened his eyes and looked at Duguyan, who was nestled in his arms and still had some lingering charm on his face. Thinking of what happened last night, a smile appeared on his face. He gently kissed her pretty face and then stood up gently. He had no intention of waking up the other party. Even though Duguyan was much stronger than Su Ruoxi due to his soul power and physical fitness, he could not resist his crazy attack on the city. After washing up, Wu Xing glanced at Duguyan on the bed again and saw that she showed no sign of waking up, and then walked out of the room. According to Su Ruoxi's usual experience, the other party might not be able to get up before noon. After leaving the room and dormitory, Wu Xing walked along the campus path towards Yilingling's dormitory, but before he reached the dormitory where the other party was, he saw her walking towards him. When Yilingling saw Wu Xing, a blush appeared on her fair face, and then her eyes flickered behind him. "Don't look, Yanzi hasn't woken up yet." Wu Xing joked when he saw Yilingling's little move. "Ah." Yilingling's heart trembled slightly, her face turned red, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Wu Xing smiled, took Yilingling's hand, and said, "She probably won't be able to get up until noon." Yilingling felt shy again when he heard this, obviously understanding what Wu Xing meant, but she couldn't help but think too much. Was her man so strong that he could make Sister Yan Yan unable to get up? "Have you had breakfast?" Wu Xing asked with concern, not knowing what Yilingling was thinking. Not yet." Yilingling, who was thinking wildly, was stunned for a moment and answered immediately. "Let's go together." Wu Xing held her leather gloves and was about to move forward when he suddenly stopped and said, "Lingling, don't wear gloves when there is no training in the future." Although he liked Yilingling's silver gloves, he always felt a little awkward when holding hands. Okay. Yi Lingling was a little surprised. He looked at the hand being held, then took off his gloves and put them into the soul guide without much thought. After taking off his gloves, Wu Xing finally saw Yi Langling's real bare hands in Lushan. They were as white as snow, as tender and smooth as a perfect work of art, and people couldn't help but hold it in their hands and play with it. After swallowing his saliva and admiring in his heart, Wu Xing reached out and took her green hand again. When her hand was held again, Yi Lingling could clearly feel the instantaneous touch, which made her originally reddish face turn even redder. However, even though she is shy, she dares to speak and act. This may be her temperament that is different from ordinary people. The two held hands and walked towards the cafeteria like golden boys and girls. Along the way, I met many students. When they saw the two holding hands intimately, they all showed shocked expressions. The news about Duguyan and Yi Lingling joining the second team had spread the day before yesterday, but no one thought about it. Now I realized that the goddess in their college was kidnapped by this guy Wu Xing. Yi Lingling didn't care at all about the looks from the many students. Again, what did they have to do with him? Yi Lingling didn't care, and Wu Xing didn't care. They could be envious or jealous as long as they didn't provoke him. This is true for all adolescent boys, but fortunately no one will actually come looking for her. The members of the team who could be found were all impressed by Wu Xing's strength. The remaining students were arrogant, but that didn't mean they were stupid. Arriving at the canteen, Wu Xing asked Yi Lingling to find an empty seat, while he went to the window to order 2 breakfasts. At Tiando Royal Academy, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are all very sumptuous, and there is no need to pay for food. Even if you want to take it away, the kitchen ant here will prepare it for you and pack it for you. Eat. Wu Xing came to Yi Lingling with a plate, sat down and moved the other breakfast in front of her. Yi Lingling smiled and nodded at him, and then began to eat elegantly. Wu Xing didn't say much. Compared to Yi Lingling's elegance, like most boys, he ate the food on his plate more casually. After the two had breakfast, they walked out of the cafeteria. It was still early. In order to avoid disturbing the sleeping Duguyan, Wu Xing did not go back to his dormitory. Instead, he discussed with Yi Lingling to go to her dormitory to sit. Naturally, Yi Lingling would not object to Wu Xing's request, and was even a little happy. Taking him to his dormitory, opening the room and entering, Wu Xing could smell the fragrance of crabapple flowers in the air. The room is neat and clean, and the furnishings are very pleasing to the eye. It looks like a lady's boudoir, not a college dormitory. When entering her room, Yi Lingling kept paying attention to Wu Xing and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw that he didn't seem to react. After all, it was the first time for her to bring a man into her room, and she was still a man she liked, so it was impossible not to be nervous. Lingling's room in our house is just beautiful. Of course Wu Xing noticed Yi Lingling's little thoughts and praised him with a smile. Husband, please stop laughing at Lingling. Although Yi Lingling was a little embarrassed by the praise, she was extremely happy inside. What I said is true. Wu Xing smiled, came to her bed, lay down on it carelessly, turned his body a few times, and then continued, and the bed is so comfortable that my husband doesn't even want to get up. Yi Lingling blushed a little at Wu Xing's words and whispered, if my husband likes it, then live here. Haha. When Wu Xing heard this, he couldn't help laughing and sat up from the bed. My husband thinks so, but I still have to decide by looking at the signs. If one day I find my Lingling sign, my husband will live here with you. After Wu Xing said this, he felt that he was a bit scumbag. After finishing his meal, Duguyan started thinking about Yi Lingling again. Yeah. Yi Lingling nodded shyly. Looking at the shy Yi Lingling, Wu Xing felt a little excited and waved to her. Lingling, come here and let your husband hug you. Yi Lingling was slightly startled, but even though he was shy, he came forward generously and sat in the other person's arms. She is the exact opposite of Duguyan. One usually looks carefree, but is shy when intimate. The other behaves shyly, but is generous when intimate. Wu Xing hugged Yi Lingling, resting his head on her shoulder, close to her pretty face, and playing with her delicate little hands from time to time. Faced with Wu Xing's behavior, Yi Lingling seemed a little nervous. In order to relieve his shame and make himself look more natural, he took the initiative to find a topic. Husband, when will you update your diary? Not in a hurry. Wu Xing shook his head with a smile, and then whispered in her ear, I have to take a good look at my Lingling first. Hearing this, Yi Lingling's body trembled slightly, and she slumped in Wu Xing's arms, letting her man do whatever he wanted on her body. Chapter 79. Continue taking stock. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After teasing Yi Lingling several times, Wu Xing opened the diary panel slowly. Dear beauties, we meet again. Do you miss me? This guy finally updated. As Wu Xing started writing, all the beauties couldn't wait to open their copies of the diary. Yesterday, when I was about to climax, I was choked off by this guy, which made me feel so uncomfortable. I really want to castrate this broken dog like you. That when they saw Wu Xingna asking them if they missed each other, some beauties were even more angry. Without further ado, let's get started. Let's continue with yesterday's review. The fourth one is the same as the seventh one, both from Poseidon Island. Her name is Bo Saishi. Perhaps few people in the Douluo world know her, but she is truly one of the three peerless Douluo, and she has the reputation of being invincible in the ocean. As for what a peerless Douluo is, that is a general term for those whose soul power has reached level 99. In addition, her martial spirit is also a god-level martial spirit, a sea god, a human being infinitely close to a god. How can this be? As Wu Xing began to introduce the fourth female soul master, he shocked countless diary holders in Douluo Continent. Peerless Douluo, soul power level 99, Poseidon martial spirit. These words can stir up huge waves in their hearts. If we talk about yesterday's comments, they could barely deal with it indifferently, but as soon as this female soul master named Bo Saishi came out, no one could be calm, not even Bibi Dong and Qian Renxue. No exception. The owner of the diary had previously talked about the divine Kesha, the supreme giant Lu Shen, and the ruthless emperor, but those were women from other worlds and had nothing to do with them in Douluo Continent, but Bo Saishi was from their world, so the impact of this was not on the same level. The fourth female soul master is already so terrifying, so how exaggerated are the next three female soul masters? Especially Bibi Dong, she was beginning to panic now. She originally thought that she would be the number one in the diary owner's heart, but with Bo Saishi's appearance, she doubted whether she had not even entered the top 10, it shouldn't be. Her current soul power is level 97, which is at least higher than the soul masters reviewed yesterday. Why has this so-called invincible ocean, the human closest to a god, reviewed her, but she hasn't appeared yet? Although Bibi Dong was arrogant, she compared it with the Bo Saishi that Wu Xing was talking about now, and decided that she was completely defeated. When Qian Renxue saw Bo Saishi's introduction, her heart twitched a little, wondering whether she was not included in the list of the top 10 most powerful female soul masters in Wu Xing after all, in her opinion. The other party said that this woman was the human being closest to God, and the next three were probably already gods. Bo Saishi is the high priest of Poseidon Island and has been living in Poseidon Temple. She has a two-sided character. She usually treats people gently, but when she faces people involving Poseidon, she becomes very strict. However, she is essentially a person. An extremely arrogant beauty. It's just a pity that such a peerless Douluo, the absolute strongest man on the sea, cannot control his own destiny. For more than 100 years, ever since she took the position of high priest, she was destined to sacrifice for the successor chosen by Poseidon. I have to complain here. It may be hard for you to accept the beauty Bo Saishi. It's not that I'm slandering her, but I think such a belief is simply not worth it. What kind of God is a belief that requires one's own sacrifice? What kind of faith is a God that requires the sacrifice of its own followers? I find this point ridiculous anyway. Not only Poseidon, but also other gods. If you want to become a god, you need human sacrifice. I completely disagree with such a weird rule. In my opinion, truly worthy faith is selfless and will protect you just like you protect the people of Poseidon Island, instead of sacrificing your own believers and your own people to achieve the purpose of protection. Sacred Kesha, the king of gods in the world of super gods, has done a very good job. I give you a thumbs up. She is the real god in my mind. Besides, Bo Saishi, you still sacrificed yourself for that Tang San and became the victim of his selfish so-called son of fate. You are guarding Poseidon Island wholeheartedly. On the other hand, is the other party protecting Poseidon Island? I don't have the heart to say it later, for fear that you won't be able to hold it back. In short, it is impossible for a guy like him to fulfill his promise to protect Poseidon Island. I can only say that Poseidon Island and the demon soul Great White Shark family were destroyed in the end. Poseidon Island, when Bo Saishi watched Wu Xing write about himself, he was not surprised. It was only when the other party talked about his personality that his face began to change, when she saw that the other party was talking about the issue of faith, and that it was Tang San who sacrificed, and that the Poseidon Island that she had guarded all her life was destroyed because of it. She could no longer hold back, and her heart could not be calm for a long time. In order to protect the people of Poseidon Island, she was willing to sacrifice and endure more than 100 years of suffering while waiting for her successor to Poseidon to appear. But now, after learning that the Poseidon's heir was Tang San, she began to doubt her own faith, and the person chosen by Lord Poseidon. From the detailed description of his deeds by the other party, she understood that the owner of the diary understood the world and Poseidon Island. She did not think that Wu Xing was making up nonsense when he said that Poseidon Island and the demon soul Great White Shark clan were destroyed. Likewise, when the sea witch saw this, she was also greatly shocked in her heart. She swam her body towards the Poseidon temple where the high priest was. She wanted to determine whether the high priest was unable to become a god because of such a layer of shackles, and whether he was doomed to wait a lifetime and could only sacrifice for others. With these thoughts in mind, she came to the Poseidon temple and met her most beloved high priest, but found that she did not notice her arrival and was in a daze. At this moment, the sea witch felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She had already believed what the owner of the diary said. Super God World. In the Queen's palace, two beautiful angels were sitting on the grass in the garden, both holding a copy of the diary in their hands. Queen, it seems that this little guy respects you very much. A silver-haired female angel saw the owner of the diary saying that Queen Kesha was the real god in his mind. A slight smile appeared on her face, and she talked with the other person beside her. Said an angel, these two beautiful angels are He-She and Kesha. Faced with He-She's teasing, Queen Kesha's face did not change at all, and she calmly replied, but don't some people think that I am a dictatorship? Boring. He-She curled her lips when she heard this. She naturally understood who Kesha was talking about. What they were talking about was the owner of the diary. Why did it involve Morgana again? Of course, his words make me very happy. Looking at He-She's speechless look, a rare smile appeared on Kesha's face. To be recognized by outsiders was from a life outside the universe. Even she, who had always been stern and unsmiling, had some fluctuations in her heart. I thought you didn't have emotions. Seeing Kesha's happy smile, He-She joked with a smile, but what greeted her was Kesha's disregard. She had already opened the diary and continued reading. Chapter 80 Ren Shui's ending. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, no more complaining, now let's talk about the third one. She is Qian Renshue among the three beauties of Wuhuan Palace. Martial Spirit is a six-winged angel with extremely high talent. He is the first spirit master with innate spirit power of level 20 and the first person to become a god in Douluo Continent in the past years. The god she inherited is called the God of Angels. It is the true main god. It has the two attributes of holiness and fire, and can absorb the power of the sun. It is not an exaggeration. I was actually ranked third. Looking at the words that reappeared on the copy of the diary, Qian Renshue murmured in disbelief. She thought she would miss the list, but she didn't expect that the diary owner ranked her third and gave her such a high evaluation of her talent. This surprise caught her off guard, but the next second she saw the words that the diary copy had been updated. Her heart sank suddenly. Logically speaking, she is far ahead of others in terms of talent and training resources, so she should be living a very happy life. However, this beauty who is loved by thousands of people has a tragic childhood. Not only did she lack the love of her parents since she was a child, but she was also hated by her mother. The only grandfather who loved her also sacrificed his life for her to become a god. It can be said that she is one of the people with the most miserable fate in the Douluo world. Of course, the reason for this is mainly caused by her father. The specific details involve the privacy of Xuexue and beauty Dongger, so I won't say more. You just need to remember that the Dongger beauty's dislike of you and hatred of you is entirely caused by your father. If you want to know more, you can ask your grandfather. And she is only like this on the surface. In fact, she still cares about you very much, but she cannot express this feeling. In addition, beauty Dongger, Xuexue expressed disgust and anger towards you because she felt that you did not give her the care and recognition she deserved. She actually longs for your motherly love in her heart. As my pen pals, I don't want your mother and daughter to fight against Tang San's little brat in the battle between the two gods like in the original novel. Xuexue destroyed her divine status in order to save you, and is no longer the god of angels. The god-level martial soul seraphim was also downgraded to a holy angel. The original level 100 soul power was finally set at level 89, and it could not be increased further. Well, speaking of this, Queen Kesha, don't take your seat. This is the rule of the Douluo world. If the dimensional barrier is opened one day, Xuexue, I suggest you worship under the disciples of Holy Kesha and worship under her disciples. Anyway, you believe in angels, and she is the angel itself and the queen of angels. And she will not let her believers sacrifice any lives. She will only selflessly protect her people. Even if they are unrelated races, she will unreservedly for these races, either dying in a tragic battle or helping them. One party. So I would say before that this is the image of a god in my mind, and this is the faith worth protecting. As the text in the diary copy gradually increased and appeared, countless diary holders were shocked, amazed, and sympathetic when they saw this scene. As for the beauties in the Douluo Continent world, they never expected that they could eat such a big melon. After reading the reviews, Qian Renxue felt very silent when she first met Wu Xing and talked about her miserable childhood. However, when she saw the other party saying that the woman was not who she seemed, it was all caused by her father. Her already cold heart beat hard. She didn't like to see herself, and even hated herself. It turned out that she had her own reasons, but she couldn't express them because of her father. At this moment, Qian Renxue wished she could take off her disguise, return to Wuhuan City, return to Wuhuan Hall, find her grandfather and ask what was going on, what exactly did her father do, why did her mother become so indifferent to her, and why did her mother rather bury it in her heart than tell herself. In Wuhuan City, Bibi Dong looked at the comments on the copy of the diary. Her eyes gradually changed from the initial sternness until her pupils became dilated. The papal majesty that originally belonged to her was like a mother after taking off the package. She didn't know how long it had been since she had such complicated thoughts, and she didn't know how long it had been since she felt as heavy as today. As Wu Xing said, she didn't care about her daughter at all as she seemed on the surface. She didn't care at all. After learning the original plot, her daughter destroyed her divine position in order to save her, causing her spirit to be downgraded from a seraph to a holy angel. Her spirit power was stuck at level 89 for the rest of her life, unable to make any further progress. Her heart, which she thought was gone long ago, also it will hurt, heart-wrenching pain. Xiaoxue, Mom, I'm sorry for you. You didn't fulfill your duty as a mother. The heart-wrenching pain made it difficult for Bibi Dong to breathe, and her dilated pupils looked in the direction of the Tiando Empire, muttering. At the same time, Hulaina next to her looked at the teacher's painful look, and her mood sank. She never thought that the teacher had such a weak side, nor did she think that the reason why the teacher had a bad relationship with her daughter was because of some unknown secret. Tang San, you really deserve to die. Hulaina clenched her fists, whether it was for herself, the spirit hall, or even her most respected teacher, the Continental Senior Spirit Master Academy Elite Competition. She wanted to kill this so-called son of fate. Even if he sacrifices his own life, he will not hesitate to die with the other party. Tang San. I haven't done anything yet, why am I taking the blame again? Poseidon Island. Bo Saishi was also shocked when she saw this place, but what she read was the last few lines. It turns out that in the mind of the owner of the diary, the image of a god is such that he is selfless and dedicated, just like he does to his own people, and he will give his life for them without hesitation, and they are even greater. Even when they are in danger for an unrelated race, they can fight and die for the beauty of those lives. How selfless this is the faith that is truly worth protecting. For more than 100 years, she had already acquiesced to her fate and sacrificed herself for the heir of Poseidon, but at this moment she felt like she no longer wanted to accept her fate. What's more, the one she wanted to sacrifice was Tang San, who had such a bad and selfish personality. Even if it went against the wishes of the Poseidon, she couldn't let him inherit the position of the Poseidon. As long as she is around, Tang San, the so-called son of destiny, will have no chance of inheriting the throne of God. It won't even work if Lord Poseidon comes, she said. Tang San. Who the hell did I offend again? Super God World. Queen, I have suddenly become interested in this little guy. If he appears in our world one day, I must capture him. The silver-haired female angel she had a cunning look on her face, as if she had seen something interesting and couldn't help but want to tease it. Kesha, who was sitting aside, couldn't help but rolled her eyes when she heard this. Her best friend is an old angel who is more than 30,000 years old, but she still acts so naughty. Ah. In Douluo world, Wu Xing, who was updating his diary, suddenly sneezed and subconsciously touched his nose, feeling very strange in his heart. What happened? I have already cultivated my soul power, so it is impossible to catch a cold. It can only be recorded by someone secretly, but who is thinking about him, giving him a creepy feeling?